I'm Emily, Triplett Lentz with Help Scout, and here's Matt Patterson, my teammate, and we are recuperating late in the evening for me, I guess midday for you in Australia, after what was an eventful day in internet land.
Oh, yes.
I guess you were asleep.
Yeah, I woke up to the drama.
Yeah, but it was kind of wild there for a minute. Help Scout was impacted. We had issues with inbound emails and attachments and images and docs, and our marketing site went down. But I guess the silver lining is everybody was so no one was like just mad at us.
Yeah, that's right. A problem shared, as they say.
Right. And, our customers are generally pretty savvy. And as soon as you say, like, this is a big issue and we're waiting on updates, we're doing everything we can, people were generally pretty cool about it.
Yes. There's probably a reason that you and I are talking and not, our head of support.
Right. Exactly. But you used to be the head of support, like the go-to person at Campaign Monitor, where you were before when this kind of situation.
Absolutely.
Right? How was that?
Yeah, these are very stressful situations. I've been through a lot of them. It is sort of nicer when it's somebody else's fault and you don't feel the entire burden of the problem yourselves. But even so, you're still responsible. Like we're still responsible as Help Scout for the experience that our customers have, even if the actual root cause is outside of our system. So yeah, they're not fun days, but one of the things I learned, I think, in that process was that if you do a good job as a customer service person, you can really help customers get through that situation better. Like you can do it well and you can do it poorly. So that's what we're going to talk about. Yeah.
How do you balance that messaging when it's not your fault, but yeah, you built your stack on this service that's down. So you've got to take some amount of responsibility for it, but how do you convey that appropriately without throwing a vendor under the bus?
Yeah, I think you've got to think about it from the perspective of the customer. Like, there's no point blaming, in this case, Amazon. You can say that that's useful information to certain people. So I will give you that information if I think it will help explain what's going on. So as a customer of ours, this has happened. The reason that certain things aren't working is because those things are associated with this other service and that service is having problems. So that's useful context for you to have. It's not us saying it's nothing to do with us, it's someone else's problem. It's saying, here is why the problem is happening, and therefore this is what we're going to do about it. Or, in some cases, we can't do a lot about it, but what we can do is keep you informed, and we're going to do it here and not make you go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. And events like this, just like the huge data breach we just saw recently that's prompting everyone to scramble and update their passwords. Events like this kind of can similarly inspire folks to just make sure that their house is in order, that their ducks are in a row for inevitably when this kind of thing occurs again. What would you say are the most important things to make sure you've got in place?
Yeah, that's it. You have, particularly if you weren't hit today, that's a huge opportunity to say,
yeah, congratulations.
Maybe we weren't quite ready for that, and maybe we can be ready before it inevitably does happen. So I think there's a much bigger picture of how do you handle incidents in general, like responding to big issues. But I think for support people, especially if you're on the front line and you're the one who's talking to customers, you can have a pretty good plan for not the specific language necessarily, it's going to change depending on what's happening, but you can have a plan and approach for this is how we talk about these sorts of issues. This is where we talk about them. these are the tools that we need to log into, and this is how we're going to break it up amongst the team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, downtime, it's a reality. But I think by and large, customers are rooting for you. You know, we were rooting for Amazon today. And I think just especially support folks, like pretty empathetic bunch. And we all know those feels, you know, like, oh gosh, guys, you must be having a rough day. Sorry about that.
Exactly. This is not the time to be getting on Twitter and proclaiming how good you are. Right? This is empathy time, because you know it's going to come back and bite you at some point.
It sure is. Yeah. Like the crisis management plan, like that's big picture stuff. But when you're talking just about customer support and being prepared for these kinds of situations, as far as messaging and where you're going to communicate and how you're going to communicate it, like what are the main things to consider there?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got that element that which is within your control in the support team, and you have probably two areas, and depending on your position in the team, maybe you don't have some of these choices, but someone in the team is going to decide, like, where does that message go? So where should people look for status updates? Amazon today, people realizing that their status page was also not working because it was hosted on the same services or, you know, related services. So
right, and then they at least got their status page fixed so that they could say things are broken.
Yeah, but that's like it's amazing how much difference that makes. Having been in a company where we didn't have a status page, and we just ended up answering a zillion versions of the same email over and over again because people had nowhere else to look. Once we had that status page there and you start pointing people to it, then you're making life easier for yourself, and you can spend more time like giving them right information out to everybody at once instead of like over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and that's a good argument for redundancy in all the places, right? Because we use status page for our status page, the tool status page, and their assets were affected by the S3 outage today.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, there's always going to be a point at which you can't be redundant, but at least separating the service that your main site is on and the service that your status site is on, it gives you a level of redundancy. So making it findable, and not just having it there, but also having it in a place where people can actually find it when they need it. So something we used to do in my old company was when there was a status update, so when we were using the status page, that would automatically also update the contact form on the website and inside the application, so that if you were a customer and something was broken and you went to report it to us, before you sent that email in, you'd have a big thing saying, yes, we know something is broken. All the details that we have are over here now. And they could go there and sign up and get emails when it was fixed and get all the updates from there. So that they didn't have to like go through the whole thing of writing out this thing is broken and explain and have us explain, yes, we know this is what's going on and here is the. So putting it there, making it findable, and then making sure that you're proactive and you actually update that and not just wait for people to tell you that it's broken before you do it. Right. I think there's nothing worse than a status page which is wrong. So when you know something's broken and you go to the status page and then the status page says, everything's fine, everything's green here.
Right. Or your customers alerting you to an issue before.
Yeah, exactly. Your customer's saying, hey, you're saying it's fine, but it's clearly not fine. And then you have to explain to them, oh, it's not just you, it's everybody. And our status page is also wrong. So if you're going to do it, you've got to commit to like updating it and being proactive and doing it quickly. Unlike certain companies that I've dealt with in the past who just have the same single status update for hours on end when you know that things are changing. Mm-hmm. It's very frustrating. So that's the one point, I think, the kind of the structural elements of where does it go and how do you find it? And then the other big piece is what language do you use? What do you actually say? And how do you say it? That's I think where, yes, you can be pretty prepared. You can put a lot of effort into, these are the kinds of things we say. This is how we sort of say it. And here are some examples. Because you're under stress. Like when you're trying to write those status pages, nothing more stressful to me in my support career than trying to write status updates during an outage, because if you get it wrong, you're just making things worse for everybody.
Your sweaty palms are clogging up your keyboard.
That's right. And then you've got to replace your keyboard. Stating failure situation. Yeah. So I mean, I've got a few tips. I can run through a few things.
Yeah, go for it.
That I've come across, I guess. So first off, we sort of covered the first one, which is actually acknowledging the issue. So getting out there and saying, on whatever channels that you have that you choose to use, probably every channel that you will accept support in, you should also be going out on to say, this is happening. We know it's an issue, because it's just acknowledging to the person, it's not just you, it's more people. There's no point you contacting us to tell us, because we do already know. So what you want to say is acknowledge it, and then a couple of key things. What's the scope of it, and what's the impact? So
yeah, and it does not hurt to apologize.
Absolutely.
And sincerely at that, like, this is sorry for the inconvenience, that doesn't count.
No, that's a terrible phrase.
Blaming it on the vendor doesn't count. Like, this is an opportunity for empathy.
Exactly. It's a time that you can say, this sucks. I know this sucks that this is happening, but you're trying to build up their confidence that someone is doing something about it, that they will continue to be updated. They don't need to worry about it. It's not on them to keep checking in to see if it's working. It's just, we're on top of it. Everything that we know, we will pass on to you here, and we will do it regularly. And you build up that confidence so that they can safely go, well, I guess I can go and have my lunch for an hour and come back, and then I'll know what happened in that time. Or I can go and work on something else. Although today, maybe not so much. Today it's go and practice your ping pong or something that doesn't require the internet.
Yeah, and I noticed today that our customers team kept the status updated at least every hour or so, because you don't want to check back in after an hour and a half and still see the same message that was there before. Even if that's to say, like, we're still waiting on an update, we'll keep you posted.
Yes.
Just so that they can have confidence that you're monitoring the situation.
Exactly. Yeah, because when you see that old status, you just lose all that confidence of like, well, wait, is this broken now, or are they doing nothing about it, or has something been fixed and I didn't know? Like, that's something you do as well. Just forgetting to put the last message in that says, yes, everything is fixed and you're fine to go ahead and do your job now. If you don't put that in there, you get like 2 days later, someone saying, when is this going to be fixed? Because they don't, I've had that before. Like, people, they don't try it because they're worried, if I log in now, I'm going to break something because I know that this thing was working. So put that last one in, and focus on customer impact. I think in terms of language, wording things in a way that is pitched to the level of your customer. So some companies do this really poorly, and they will use internal names for parts of their application, or they will give you technical details that are incomprehensible to someone who doesn't have a technical background. And like, the customer doesn't need to know, there was not to mention any particular companies, I should be careful, but there's a problem in pod 7 that has a database syncing something, right? What does that mean to me as a customer? Who knows? What I need to know is like, can I log in? Can I use this service? If I use it and it looks like it's working, does that mean it's working, or is something not happening, right? So giving them a sense of the impact of it. Like, you may experience problems logging in, or some customers cannot send out their email campaigns, in my case, in my previous job. Giving them that kind of context to understand what the impact is, and then they can make a smart decision about what they're going to do or not do. And then giving them alternatives. If there are workarounds for the current situation, you can give them that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's taking that leap, right, of this isn't just affecting our customers, this is affecting our customers' customers. It's getting in the way of them doing business, and we need to behave appropriately. Like, this is a big deal for them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Sometimes your customers will take your status updates and just pass them directly onto their customers to say, this is what's happening. It's probably something they shouldn't do, but it definitely happens. And so you have to be aware the audience that sees this is quite public, especially if you're doing like social support. That thing can be passed around within minutes all over the place, completely out of the context of the rest of your tweets. And so,
which we did see a little bit of today with Amazon, their stats page that hadn't been updated got memeified.
It happens so quickly.
Right.
People aren't seeing it, like understanding who that brand is and what they've been saying for months on end. They're just seeing that one thing. So yeah, definitely a time to be a little bit cautious. So I think you come up with some language like that. What a lot of teams do is kind of sit down. There are certain types of errors and outages that you can kind of predict. Like, you know, at some point the web server is going to fail, and so that people can't visit the website at all. At some point the payment system is going to go down and people can't pay. Certain things you can probably pre-write a pretty good generic explanation for, and just stick it in a document so that, like, put it behind glass. So when things really go wrong, someone can break it out and come up with, like, this is what we're saying today based on this template, which we know is pretty well written. Yeah, nobody wants to give incorrect information. You don't want to overpromise either. This is something that you learn as a support person. I learned anyway. Whatever estimate you get given for when it's going to be fixed, you should probably double that and then add a bit more on before you say anything to customers, right? Because it never works out the way that.
Good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for chatting with me about this. And hopefully by the time that people see this video, the storm will have blown over a little bit and everybody will have had a chance to recover.
Yes, fingers crossed that everyone is having a better day.
Chocolate, pizza, whatever you need.
Chocolate pizza. Don't eat that.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, friend.
Goodbye.